What's going on, my calling family? You're here with your host, Chaz Harden. I'm so excited to share the first episode with you guys, man. Here on my calling podcast. This episode is going to be just strictly about me and my testimony, me coming up. But this podcast in general is really just a faith based podcast, just talking about the Lord, talking about Jesus, and a lot of open and honest conversations. Um, in the black community, we don't really get to open up as much, especially as men, being vulnerable. So I wanted to just open up and let you guys in on myself. So the idea of this podcast maybe came, I want to say a year ago. I was talking to my wife, it was my fiance at the time, about wanting to really just get into my calling, what I was put on earth to do. A lot of people know me for basketball. A lot of people know me for just being a cool person. But once I got out of college, I was just really looking for what was my next thing. And of course, being an entrepreneur, that's a given. But, there's always more than just running a business or playing a sport. So I always look forward to just doing something that I knew felt right. And I was talking to Cassidy about how could I help other people. And at the time, it was really talking about helping children. So I love kids. So I wanted to get into schools, talk to kids, that was my main idea at first. So I want to say she had came home one time and she was saying like, a lot of people, a lot of people know you. It'll be a good idea to maybe start a podcast. But me, I'm kind of like, I don't know, kind of nervous. I don't really want to open up. Who really want to come on my podcast? So I pushed it off maybe for like a year. And maybe not even 2 weeks ago, Cassidy had came back home. She went to a Bible study. And we were just talking about, getting into your calling, like, what do you want to do next? So she brought the podcast up again. And I was just thinking, like, hey, should I really do this? You know what I mean? Because I trust her. Her opinion is definitely very important to me, being my wife. So I took it into consideration. And I was thinking, like, okay, what would I name it? Like, where to start? So the first thing that came to mind was my calling. Because a lot of my friends, a lot of people call me for advice. Like, most of the time, people call me, they want to open up about something, they want to talk. They're probably going to call me because I'm going to be open, I'm going to be honest, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. So I knew this was the right thing to do. And just to tell you guys a little about me, I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, playing basketball, lived in Cleveland Heights, specifically to be exact, all my life. Played basketball, met a lot of people. A lot of people to this day ask me, why you give up on ball or this, that, and the third. But, there's more to life than playing basketball. Basketball has opened up a lot of doors for me. I've met a lot of amazing people through the game of basketball, and it's brought me to where I am today, gaining a relationship with God. I'm just thankful for the game, most importantly. But all the way to high school, I played basketball. I ended up playing basketball in college a little bit. But my sophomore year of high school, my mom wanted, just a fresh start. So after my sophomore year, I moved to Georgia. And the area I moved to was a lot different than where I grew up. So it took a lot of adjusting, one. And it was really uncomfortable for me because, the kids, everybody was coming to school, brand new cars, you know what I mean? So I had to really, they came from a lot of money. So I was just trying to, see where I fit in that crowd. So that was a huge part of today, just having to be able to adjust to any room. So once I arrived at the school, started playing basketball, of course, became more comfortable with the area, but still just academically, it wasn't the same. So I still had, certain obstacles I would face, having to get extra help, just being uncomfortable. But I met so many people, again, through the game of basketball that was able to help me become who I am today. And I'm thankful for them as well. While I was there, I had a few situations that set me back, I would say, that came with basketball. And once I graduated, it was time to find a school. And I remember I didn't have any offers. Like I had no offers, which, was really uncomfortable because I just knew I was going D1. I knew I was going to be the best of the best. And that didn't happen. So I moved back to Cleveland with my father after high school, just looking to find any opportunity. Really couldn't find much. So I ended up going to a junior college. I played there 2 years, had 2 decent seasons, and then, it was time to find a new school. So I reached out to Kentucky State coach, told me to come. I would have had a walk-on opportunity, which I did have a walk-on opportunity. I went to Kentucky State. I made a name for myself. And during that time, that's when I had met Cassidy. So she was going to UK. So I'm like, it's perfect, So I went to Kentucky State. Cassidy was at UK. And I felt like God was telling me something. Basketball was going great. I was playing at probably the highest level that I ever played at. So I knew I was going to play. Coach told me I had a spot. And around this time is when I had started furniture and then some. So while I was transitioning schools, of course, I always had an entrepreneur mindset, but I wanted to start something while I was in school. So that way, once I got out of school, I would have something going on. And at that time, I was just unsure if basketball was going to work. So I started furniture and then some, met Cassidy, went down to Kentucky, and I was starting to get sales. Like, I'll be at school, I have people contact me because people like, you still selling furniture? I'll be like, yeah, I still got it. But, I'm still in the transition of hooping or if I'm going to keep the business going. So I had just prayed. I'll never forget this. I prayed. The coach had told me, like, it's time to make a decision. You're either going to go through with it or you're not. Because I told him I was, I started a business, but, it was time to make a decision. I couldn't play the fence. So I'll never forget. I prayed about it. And I just asked God, like, what should I do? Because this is like a huge point in my life. Like, what should I do? Should I continue to play basketball or should I build for the future? And at this time, my dad didn't understand. My mom didn't understand. She still think I'm going to the NBA to this day for some odd reason, which is not happening. My grandparents, nobody really understood why I wasn't playing. They like, oh, he fell in love. He don't want to play no more. All this stuff, but not knowing that during this time, I'm going through something as a man, just transitioning, really growing up and becoming a real man, like a decision only I can make. So I prayed. I never forget. I just said, God, show me a sign of what I need to do. I want to say maybe a week later, I had somebody reach out to me for some furniture, and it was a pretty large sale. And I was like, God, is this what you're trying to tell me? I'm like, nah, it wasn't clear enough. And then I want to say like maybe a couple of days later, and mind you, I'm still in college, so any money I'm making is great money to me. So somebody reached out again maybe a couple of days later, and I said, oh yeah, this is it. So it was clear to me after I asked God what to do. Once he showed me the signs, it was clear of what I needed to do. I told Coach, I said, Coach, I appreciate you. I appreciate the opportunity. I'm beyond thankful, but I think I'm going to continue to run my business. So at this point, I'm like, okay, well, if this is what I'm going to do, I'm going to have to be 110%. I stopped playing basketball. I stopped really working out like to be a professional athlete. I knew I wasn't going to play pro anymore. So I put my all into the business. So at this time, I'm telling Cassidy, like, because she had already started doing interior design, but she wasn't like, she didn't have like assistant clients at the time. So I'm telling her like, we going to build something like, I'm going to build my business. You're going to build your business. And eventually, where we are today, thank God, we're working together. But I already had this vision once I said I wasn't playing basketball because I knew I had to put my 100% effort into something. So I started just, reaching out to furniture vendors. I was doing everything I could to make this business work because I felt like if I wasn't going to play basketball, this had to work. I didn't have an option. So went to some furniture conventions with Cassidy. I got vendors. I started a website. Everything was flowing smooth. And then senior year, graduation came. Junior year, because Cassidy is she graduated a year before me. So she was trying to figure out, where she wanted to start her career. Mind you, she's in the interior design. But at the time, she was getting into real estate. She was trying to, get her foot in the door. And she was deciding on either going to Miami But I told her, like, I'm not going to Miami personally. You know what I mean? I pray everything still work out, but I wasn't going to Miami. That just wasn't the fit for me. So I told her how I felt about Miami. She said, "What about Houston?" So I said, "You know what? I heard a lot of good things about Houston. Spring break, we shoot to Houston. She already had some apartments she wanted to look at. We went to the apartments. We the apartment we in right now. We toured this apartment, and she was like, "Babe, this is where I want to be. Mind you, I'm still in school, but it's I want her to be comfortable, and it was a nice apartment, So I was like, okay, cool. We got everything figured out. So I have to go back to school. It's my senior year. So now, of course, it's crunch time for me. My lady, she living life. I'm trying to build. So now, for me, it's crunch time. Senior year of college, I'll never forget. Um, it was time to go to school. So for me to really like get a lot of things done, I like to be by myself, just like dialed in. So I needed a single room. I wasn't living off campus. I was still living on campus, and I needed a single room. Like, no matter what it costs, I just need a single room. So sometimes I'm last minute, I'm not gonna lie. So I waited to the last minute for whatever reason, and I'm like, I need a single room. And I prayed on it. I promise you, I prayed. I'm like, God, this is a big year for me. Like, I need a single room. I called the school. And mind you, I'm not hooping anymore. But I did reach out to the coach, like, Coach, I know I ain't hooping, but you feel me? Like, can you help me get a room? Like, I need a single room. He like, I'm gonna look out for you, see what I can do. He tried, couldn't do it. So I reached out to the school on my own. I told him, like, I need a single room. I'm trying to, have a great year. All this, just trying to sell it. So they're like, well, Mr. Hart, we don't have any single rooms. So I'm like, okay, cool. It's my fault I waited last minute. So it's nothing I could do. I never forget, they told me, like, you're going to have to stay in the hotels. It was overbooked. People stay in the hotel. So they told me I was going to have to stay in the hotel until a room opened up. But mind you, no singles was available. Kid you not. I'm like, God, I need a single room. Like, I prayed on it every day. And then I want to say I called again maybe like 2-3 days later, like, asking, is there anybody that I could speak to? What can we do? Can I get on a waiting list? And it was just it was just God's favor. It was nothing but God's favor. So I get on the phone. They're like, well, actually, we have one room. They give me the price. It was a bit expensive. It was like an RA room. It was like I had my own bath. It was just a really nice room. And it was like only 2 of them in the building. And they told me one had opened up. There's nobody but God. Got the room, went down to school. I was turned. Like, it's like, oh, that's all I needed. Senior year, I think I probably went out maybe like 4 or 5 times max. Like, it got to the point, like, they was calling me Uncle Chaz. And if you know me, I'm not no uncle. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not no uncle. I'm not nothing like that. But I was just so dialed in to the point where, like, that's all I want to do is just stay in the room, like, do research. Cassidy, what was that book she got me? It was a devotional. Cassidy bought me a devotional. And at this point, like, I always had a relationship with God. Like, my mom always had me and my brothers praying, like, my whole life. So I always had a relationship with God. But at this point in my life, I feel like I didn't have no choice but to get closer to God because it was time. Like, I'm a man now. Like, I'm about to graduate. So I was reading my devotional. I was praying. I was just locked in. And around graduation time, I want to say, around my last year, I want to say I got on the dean's list. I was having consistent sales. So everything was starting to make sense. And when I graduated, Cassie was like, okay, are you coming to Houston, right? Like, we always had plans to, move together right after school. We always was thinking to build. So I'm like, yeah, but, paper got to be right. I can't move out of state, you know what I mean? Especially as a man, take on that role, if the financials wasn't right. So, and I'm, as a man, you always gonna think way higher than what you actually need. So, long story short, I told Cassie, like, y'all move, but I have to have this certain amount. And she was like, well, don't depend on that. I'm like, nah, that's just what it is. So I had my graduation party. Graduation came, Cassie still asking me, like, did you hit it? And I ended up hitting the number, and I was just like so thankful, like to God, because I knew I didn't want to be in Cleveland long after graduation. Here in Houston is a huge market for interior design, for anything you want to do. Texas, not even just Houston. In Texas, is just a huge market. So I knew once I visit Houston, I knew this was the place for me. I just knew. So I hit the number I wanted to hit before I moved. And I just knew it was God plan. Everything was just lining up. Like everything was just lining up how it was supposed to. And I came to Houston. It was such a great feeling. I'll never forget just packing my things and just moving to Houston. And I told all my guys, I told them like, bro, like I'm in Houston. Like I'm moving to Houston. They're like, bro, you really move? I'm really moving to Houston. I told everybody, my parents, like I was probably home maybe like 3 months after graduating, and then I was out. Like I already had in my head, like before I graduated, that I was moving to Houston. I had been working towards that. Nobody even knew it. Like this is what I'm doing. God made everything just happen how it was supposed to. Got to Houston, and I left my car. I had a 2012 Ford Escape. I had that car since freshman year of college. Left it in Cleveland because I'm like, I can't fit. Because I was coming down here. I didn't have a job lined up. All I was doing was still just selling furniture and still trying to figure out how to just grow the business. I knew once I came to Houston, I would be able to grow the business. So that was all I was focused on, just coming here to grow the business. So I left my car, came down here, no vehicle. Cassidy had her car down here. And I remember getting here and just being like, whoa, like, what's next? Like, I'm here, like, but what's next? And I remember telling Cassidy, like, because business had got slow. And I was like, like, what's, like, I ain't like, trying to figure it out. Like, what should I do? And this was another point in my life where I had to really lean on God. And I'll never forget, she was just saying, like, just pray on it, and it's going to work out. And I did, I literally prayed on it. And I prayed on it. I said, God, just show me what you need me to do. I ended up meeting my guy, Howard. He owns an event space. Howard and I started doing business. I just started meeting people left to right. And I want to say it probably took me, and there was a point in time I was literally picking up furniture in Cassidy's car. I'm putting the seats down. I'm putting mattresses in there. I'm doing whatever just to get it. And I want to say it maybe took me not even 7 months to get me a truck where I was able to really grow, because I knew delivering in Cassidy's car and getting U-Hauls, that was only temporary, but it was uncomfortable for me to really, I'm not using my lady car. You know what I mean? That's in my head. Even though, okay, I have a car, but still, like, it was so uncomfortable to have to do that. And I feel like in life, you have to go through those things to reach the next level. You have to get uncomfortable. You have to trust God. Those are the things that really, and and I used to always hear people say that, like, just trust God, just do this, just do that. But I feel like there's just certain, and it's just really a testimony. There's just things in life that you just have to go through sometimes on your own with God to make you really feel like, and not even feel like, just know like it's him that's doing it. You can't really depend on nobody else. And you don't want to turn to the wrong things. So I feel like that was just a moment in my life where I was like, man, this is uncomfortable. Like, I'm not trying to do this. I'm not trying to use her car. I'm not trying to, I'm feeling like my business is supposed to skyrocket, but it takes time. I'm definitely in a better place now, for sure, but it takes time, and you have to trust the process. I tell you have to trust the process. You have to get uncomfortable. You have to do things you don't want to do. Even me getting on a podcast was something that I know what I'm supposed to do, but it was uncomfortable, but I'm going to do it. I know God calling me here to do this. I know somebody needs to hear what I'm saying or feel how I feel, but they're not going to say it. So somebody, has to say it. And I feel like on every episode, I'm telling, every guest will be open. Every guest is going to be honest, all honest conversations. We just here to grow. We're here to grow together. And it's not always going to be easy for any of us. Like, on social media, everything looks good on the outside. Like, everything looks good. Even, me and Cassie and I being married at a young age, and, Cassidy posts things on social, like, people just think everything is just, peaches and cream, but we put in work. Just like I put in work into my business, I invest into my marriage, I invest in everything that I have going on. You have to invest. You have to give 110% effort. And trust God. That's the only way to work, because there's gonna be days. I have days where I don't even feel like getting up to go pick up certain people that's working with me. I don't feel like being in installation for 12 hours, but I know what needs to be done. Or Cassie and I having disagreements. Of course, you don't want to have a disagreement, but that's what builds character. It builds the relationship. You have to go through these things in life. And I'm just ready to spread the word. I'm ready to help others. I'm ready to help everybody grow. Because that's what it's about at the end of the day. It could be uncomfortable, it could seem like, man, that's cheese. But at the end of the day, like, everybody know, like, everybody want somebody to lean on. Everybody wants somebody to talk to. So the last word I just want to leave my calling family with is that trust the process, trust God, and never give up. And it's just, I'm here to do what God wants me to do, no matter what. And you can too. Just go for it. Just pray, ask him, God, what do you want me to do? He gonna show you. And it's not always easy. And having the right people around you is a key piece as well. And I'm one of the young. I've always been the youngest, just growing up. My older brothers always hung out with my oldest brother and his friends. Always hung out. Everybody that I hang out with is older than me, but you can gain a lot of wisdom. And I look up to people that's doing the right thing, and I want to be that for the person under me. No matter what's going on, you have to hang around people and put yourself around people that's doing the right thing. You don't let nobody drag you back. Don't put yourself in situations where you feel like there's a possibility anything can bring you back from where you came from. Like, I don't want to go hang out with people that, I grew from that. And it's okay to grow from people. It's okay. But no matter what, just keep pushing, keep fighting, keep going. And I'm excited for what's to come. New episodes every Sunday. And there's going to be a lot of great guests. There's going to be a lot of great guests for sure. For sure. There's going to be a lot of great guests. A lot. So I'm excited. I hope you guys enjoyed the first episode. There's so much more to come. And I'm excited for you guys. I'm excited for everything that this podcast has to offer. And I look forward to talking to you guys soon. God bless.